Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nails and Beauty Talk. I am your host, Asia the Bird. To have a very special guest with us today. He is an award-winning book illustrator. Please welcome Rashad Malik Davis. Hello, Rashad. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be on, and I'm happy that you chose to interview me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So I want to go ahead and kick off this interview by asking where are you originally from and how'd you get started into the realm of art?
Yeah, so originally I'm from Staten Island, New York. Back in '99, I think it was, which sounds crazy. I moved to New Jersey, so I've been here for about 22 years now. And art is something that I've just done since I was young. My mother, she would take me to work with her, and she'd be busy. So she's like, you know what? Just grab a pencil, grab some paper, grab a pen, grab a highlighter, just go draw, hang out in the corner, and I'll, whatever. And I would do that and sit there for maybe like 3-4 hours at a time because she was working and I'd be sitting there quietly. And that's kind of when she realized, like, oh, I think that's his thing. um, but it's something that I've done my whole life. And it wasn't until maybe college or graduating college that decided to take it more seriously.
Mm. Oh, that's really, really cool. Now I want to get into like SCAD because I know me and you both went to SCAD. So I want you to go ahead and talk about your SCAD experience and you and especially you majoring in illustration and like what advice would you give for people that want to get into, art, and like attending art school and things like that?
Sure. So SCAD was interesting. I actually went to study animation. And in the middle of my animation program, I realized I was more of an illustrator than an animator. I tried to switch, and for whatever reason, I got denied access to the illustration program, and had to stay with animation. So I actually didn't finish the degree, which I don't think a lot of people know, but I decided to put it on hold to pursue entrepreneurship. And also, the cost of SCAD, as you know, was just was going to be astronomical as far as student loans. So I
Yeah.
said, you know what, I've had a great time. I've learned what I've needed to learn. I've made the connection that I needed to make. But it's time for me to move forward. So in 2016, I decided to put the degree on hold and to come back to it and pursue my entrepreneurship stage. So SCAD was good. I think the SCAD program was really strong. I wish that I had gone into undergrad animation there because I hadn't had any prior animation training. I just knew that I wanted to eventually move in that direction, but just didn't know at which point in the pipeline I would fit in. I didn't know if I would fit in previs, if I would fit in during the actual animation portion, post production. I just knew animation generally was where I wanted to end up. But the program was strong. I realized that if I had moved into the illustration portion, it probably would have fit me a lot better. But everything happens for a reason, and I had a great time regardless. So SCAD was great.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Mhm.
What advice would you give for someone who wants to attend art school?
Oh, thank you. So I think the biggest piece of advice is to have an idea of the realm in which you want to move into. So for me, I think it was different from somebody going in perhaps right after college, or going in after high school, I should say,
Mm.
um, because I was further along in my career, and it would have helped me to have known the specific realm in which I wanted to move. So I would say have some kind of loose idea of the direction that you want to move in. I think that would help a lot because it helps you to narrow your focus. And I think personally with the arts, narrowing your focus is key because it allows you to move more selectively, and to move in a direction that makes sense for your particular career. Because there's so many avenues that you can take.
Right.
Um, for me, being specific and knowing, having a general idea at least of where you want to move into is good.
Hmm. Yeah, I most definitely agree because that was kind of like with me because I was like, okay, I want to major in illustration. And with my minor, I kind of did printmaking at first, but I said, okay, I want to get into like working with like different types of fabric and get into like fashion a little bit. So
Oh,
I got
nice.
into fibers. So I switched my minor from like printmaking to fibers. So the thing is with fibers, it deals with like textiles and natural dyeing of fabric. And so like, yeah, I do understand and definitely agree. Like you have to have a set idea of what you want to do. You
Hmm.
know, you can't go all over the place because then if you try to switch your major, then that's more money.
Exactly. And in art school, I think I was reading somewhere that art school accounts for some of the most expensive degrees that you can possibly get,
Mm,
which is crazy to me considering, again, you can go into a very lucrative career in the arts, of course, but
yeah.
I think that when you're first starting out, having all that student debt and then going into a career that might not be able to pay off that student debt in a way that's helpful,
Mhm.
is damaging. So and another thing too that I want to be honest about saying as well is to look into if there are smaller programs that aren't as expensive, or even if there's non-brick and mortar programs that you can look into. So, I'm working with an online program called CGMA, which is Computer Graphics Master Academy or something like that. And I'm taking a perspective design course, and it's incredible. And it's the same level of rigor, the same level of intensity as a college program. So if money is a major issue for you, I would recommend looking into online programming as well, particularly with CGMA. And they didn't pay me to say that, but it's a really good program.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But that's definitely a good point too, is look for more affordable programs,
Yes,
not so much the ones that are very, very expensive, you know. And the thing is, you know, it takes you longer to pay for those programs in college than it is with ones that are, you know, more affordable, more reasonable.
exactly. Because the class I'm taking right now, I think it's maybe like 400. It's like between 400 and 600, but that is significantly less than paying 40,000, for a year. So it might seem like a big chunk of change off the top, but it's significantly less than what you would pay,
Mhm.
going to a 4-year program. But it really just depends on your needs and what you're looking for.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Now, who are like your favorite artists like growing up?
Ah, so many. So I always forget his name, but well, Disney was my biggest inspiration for sure. Just growing up surrounded by Disney in the '90s, like that was my kind of go-to, and then anime was kind of the next. But as far as a specific style that I really enjoyed and wanted to emulate,
Mhm.
it was the illustrator behind Stinky Cheese Man and the True Story of the Three Little Pigs. His art was so grungy and creepy looking, and I loved it. Like it was imaginative. It was different because most children's picture books and children's media is very shiny. It's very like very saturated colors, very high contrast, and
Mhm.
his was like grungy, dirty looking, and it had texture. And I was like, oh, now this is where it's at. Once I find his name, I'll say it. But I think he was one of my biggest influences growing up for sure. But beyond that, it was anime and Disney for sure.
Oh, cool, cool. I used to get like inspired by like anime, like until I looked at like other artists. Like I looked at like Paul Lewin. He's an artist like from Miami, and he's like a black artist, and he does like these African type paintings and illustrations.
I love that.
It is so beautiful.
Now, see, it's interesting that you say that because growing up, I didn't really see a whole lot of black artists. Um, I think the most black art that I saw that was kids related was Bebe's Kids, and I absolutely loved the movie Bebe's Kids. Like I was so upset when I found out that it wasn't like a TV show. I was like, oh, when are new episodes coming out of the Bebe's Kids? My mom was like, that was a movie, babe, and I was like, dreams shattered. But yeah, so I find it interesting. I love that.
Yeah, and also like there's another artist named Curry Rosanes, and he's like from the Philippines. Like Kirby does like these like illustrations that you have like a lot of stuff going on. There's other artists I got into. He's from South Korea. His name is Mr. Mizong, and
Mr.
he's
Mizan.
yeah, and he has like these cool out the box illustrations, and he does like NFTs, and I don't know if you heard of this other artist. He's on YouTube. He got millions of followers. His name is Meat Canyon.
Meat Canyon?
Yeah, he does like
What is that name?
so he does like these
Like
creepy
what?
he does like these weird creepy type animations, but he does like illustrations, but he's more so like an animator. So his work is very interesting.
I got it. Got it. Yeah, because I'm like, what? Oh, and the guy's name who illustrated that children's book is Lane Smith. Sorry, I had to look it up real quick.
Oh, okay. Okay, Lane Smith, that's cool.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to say because you were talking about NFTs because I don't know if you know anything about NFTs, but they're blowing up, and I'm just like, it seems like such a big thing for artists, but sorry.
Yeah. And yeah, people are getting the NFTs now. Like, you see those are pretty boom. I think they started getting really booming like since like 2020 or something like
Yeah,
that. But that's some I'm still thinking about getting into as well down the line, NFTs.
yeah. It seems like a big thing. It's really interesting. It always feels like the new pyramid scheme to me. I'm always like,
Oh, yeah, it's like, is this really real?
is this legit or is this a scam? I don't know.
Right. That's the thing. There's like scams going around, especially on social media, you know.
Right, right. You just really never know.
Yeah, that's the thing with that. Now, how could you describe your art style?
Hmm. Um, I would say I would say a motive and a motive and joyful. Like I say joyful because people when they see my work, they're always like, it always makes me so happy, which I'm like, oh, that's really sweet. But emotive because I intentionally like to focus on my character's emotions. A lot of the work that I do is character based, and I like to focus on the character's feelings because most of my work really has to do with empathy and emotional literacy. Like I want to get people and especially the Black community talking about our mental health and talking about our emotional struggles and normalizing that because I think that within our community it tends to kind of go under the rug
Mm-hmm.
or tends to be ignored or whatever. So I figure with this, I'm like, yeah, with my artwork, I want to show that aspect. So my main adjective would be emotive for sure.
Okay. Yeah. I
Mhm.
seen your artwork, and your artwork is very, very fun. I love
Thank
how it
you.
gives that Black representation.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's really, really cool to see. And I definitely want to shift gears and talk about Carefree Like Me. And that's an award-winning book. And big congratulations to you and the incredible book Carefree Like Me. And
Thank
I want
you.
to really ask about like what was your whole inspiration behind the book Carefree Like Me?
So it was actually a few things. So on the heavier side of things, I was really feeling heavy with all of the Black death in the media, right? So there was a time back in like 2017, 2016, where it was like unarmed Black person murdered after murder after murder after murder. And I was just feeling despondent and it was the loss of Tamir Rice that kind of took me over the edge. And it was a picture of him, like it was like a split face, kind of juxtaposed picture of him and Emmett Till. And I just broke down in tears and I was like, oh my God, I need to do something. And initially what I heard in my head was book. And I was like, okay, what do I do with that? So I kind of shelved it. And then when I got home for winter break from SCAD, actually, I was sitting on the couch with my mom and my aunt. Oh, I'm sorry, with my mother and my best friend Nina, who's in the book as the main character. And three words popped into my head. It was mythology. Oh no, it was kids, chakras, and adventures. And I was like, oh my god, that's a story. That's a story. So like ran upstairs, wrote it down on the piece of paper, like outlined the story roughly, and came back to it later.
Mm.
But it was inspired by unfortunately pain, but beyond that, I was really interested in magic and mythology and incorporating elements of Hinduism and Buddhism with regards to the chakra system. I wanted to talk to kids and talk to adults also about their emotional lives. I wanted to engage young people with emotions and give them a language to process all of these things that they're dealing with, but might not have the vocabulary or the words or the toolkit to deal with that. So it was all of those things kind of combined as like the perfect storm that allowed me to create that storm. I mean, create that story, not storm.
Yeah, but it's cool how you mentioned that, because I definitely believe that mental health in the Black community is very important, and I
Yes.
do believe that sometimes we do sweep it under the rug when we shouldn't be,
Right.
and based on like certain things like that's sometimes it's generational trauma. We're passing it down
Yes.
generation to generation,
Yes.
and because certain things that we do to suppress how we feel is
Mhm.
familiar to us, so we pretty much apply to what's familiar to us and we pass on other people,
Exactly.
especially without knowing it. So I definitely understand that, especially it's important to talk about certain issues within the Black community, especially dealing with unarmed Black men getting shot down, and mental health in the Black community, because I think those things are definitely important.
Oh yeah, and they're linked. I don't think that they're separate issues.
Yeah.
The toll it takes on us and our mental health to constantly be reminded of our death and our pain on a public scale, it feels very much like those old there used to be these really awful postcards that were sent out with images of Black people dead, and like the imagery of that juxtaposed with what happens on the media, and we're showing that all the time. Like that is a mental strain that I don't
Right.
think that I don't think we're taking into account how much that affects us. And so whenever stuff like that pops up on the TV, I just kind of like turn away because I can't be in that space. I know we have to affect change, but for me, I can't sit in that trauma space and be able to function normally.
Yeah, that's the thing with that, because it's but so much that we can take in terms of negativity, and we have to replace it with something that's positive.
Exactly, exactly. I don't think that we should run or hide from difficult topics, but you can't stay in that space.
Yeah, that's most definitely true. Now, in terms of book illustration, like what is your whole process in terms of like forming like a book, in terms of like the illustrations? Like what's your whole process with creating a book?
Ooh, a lot of work. I say it, but I love the whole process. It's a ton of fun for me. So, um, typically, if so, I guess the process is the same if I'm working for a client or for myself. But the design process is I'll come up with concepts. I'll come up with loose story, and then what I like to do with my character designs is that I like to really dive into who the character is and not just personality. I want to dive into specifics of like quirks and things that make them tick, what their wants, what their needs are, and then I work that into their design. So, for example, I'm working on a graphic novel right now, which I'm very excited about. And one of the main characters in the story, he is an effeminate gay man or gay teen. And he has all the interesting things about him, but the main thing that I wanted to focus on with his character design is his love for gaming. So he's on his hat. He has like a controller as an emblem on his hat. So these are the things that I put into my characters and kind of work in, and I then take into the final design. So once I kind of do the initial concepting, I do a rough sketch of my illustrations, like just figuring out the composition,
Hmm.
figuring out the placement of everything.
Hmm.
Then I go in, and if it's like more of a comic style, I'll do it like an inking pass so I can clean up the lines, and then I add color. So typically it's a three-prong process, which is sketch, um, the inking, and then the coloring. But sometimes if I just do more of like a painterly style, I'll just go from sketch to color to save time.
Cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, I find the process to be very interesting. And also I wanted to go ahead and ask, like, do you self-publish, or do you find a publishing company to publish like your children's books? How does that work?
So I started my journey as a self-published author, mainly because I wanted complete control over my story and to and to do as I please with it. And also just because I just truthfully was nervous about the whole prospecting process of finding an agent and finding a publisher, and I just wasn't very knowledgeable. So I was like, let me just do self-publishing, and just pay for it out of pocket. Well, with Kickstarter, but now I'm working with an agent, so I'm represented by Noah Rosen at the Susanna Leah Literary Agency. They're an incredible literary agency, and what we're doing now is that we are working with the graphic novel that I'm working on, and we're submitting it to editors and working with them, to see who might pick it up as a publisher. So I've got experience on both sides, but more experience with the self-published side of things for sure.
And what would be your advice in terms of finding an agent, like for someone
Mm,
to represent them, like whether they're an illustrator or a book illustrator?
sure. So my experience with finding an agent was very kind of untypical, I would say, not typical. I so Noah and I, we both went to Tufts University, and a friend of mine, Loie, Noah was at Loie's house, and Loie had my book on her nightstand, or on her dresser, and Noah picked it up and was like, "Oh my God, this book is incredible. Who wrote this?" And Loie told me about her. I told her about me. She followed me on my website and got connected with me that way. So she connected with me personally, as opposed to the typical process, which is an author reaching out and querying, which is coming up with a short description of their book, having their manuscript and sending it out as a pitch to agents, specifically. So as far as advice, my experience is a bit different from most other authors, but the best thing I would say is narrow your focus. So with agents, they are looking for very particular stories. Like every agent is different. Some are looking for fantasy, some are looking for horror, some are looking for romance, some are looking for a mishmash of all of that. And you have to
Mhm.
tailor your focus. So there are several websites, that I can see if I can get the names for. But I would say Twitter is really good. There's PitMad, which is basically pitch, like a PitchMad. You do a Twitter hashtag search on specific dates. There's specific days where you can pitch, and agents are specifically looking for a particular hashtag on Twitter. There's a multitude of ways, but I would say best thing is to tailor your focus and get Twitter if you don't have it.
Cool. Now I want to get into in terms of having art business. So you sell your own art prints, stickers. You also sell your books. So what is your whole experience having your own art business?
So having an art business has been many years in the making. So I started officially in 2017, and I put it down for about a year because I started working a full-time job at an art studio. Um, but you know, I the experience has kind of ebbed and flowed like anything else in life, right? So there have been times where everything is great and everything is flowing beautifully, and there have been times when there's been very slow periods. So I love it. I wouldn't do anything else. But it's definitely had its ups and downs, like any business, like anything else in life. It's been fantastic to connect with the community, and to do it on my own terms, and to see yourself growing as a business owner, and especially as a small Black business owner, LGBT business owner as well. It's really cool to be in this space and being able to connect with others and get them inspired and show them that they can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely agree with that. Now, what's
Mhm.
your whole take in terms of like selling and marketing, especially, how to price one's work?
Mm. So really great questions, because the selling and marketing aspect is where I struggle the most, right? So a lot of my sales are made through word of mouth, and through direct sales. So I'm very good at interfacing with people directly. I'm a people person, but I struggle with making online marketing because online, everybody is competing for space. Everybody is competing for attention. So my focus primarily has been through using my newsletter, and connecting with customers directly that way, people who have bought from me previously and are interested in my work. It's been through vending at events. That's how I kind of connect with people directly and can make that face-to-face connection.
Right.
Um, and then it's also been at connecting to schools. So I'll get word of mouth references to other schools after I do a visit. So, it really depends on your business model. But for me, most of my marketing has been done in person and not online because it's just not as effective, with my work and my particular brand.
Hmm. Yeah, the reason why I asked it, because I think it's very, very important to kind of sell, market your work. And of course,
Yes,
people do it differently. Like for me, I rely on like social media.
yes,
But of course, like with me, I'm still working on marketing too, and especially with pricing, because I think something that
yes,
art school should touch on a bit more is just pricing and how to run a successful art business.
yes, exactly. Exactly. I think many art schools don't approach it from the entrepreneurial standpoint, and
Mm,
approach it more of like how can you work collaboratively in the studio environment,
mhm,
or work for a company as opposed to working for yourself.
mhm.
And with regards to the pricing, that was one of my biggest struggles, was finding out how do I price myself competitively. And I got a great suggestion recommendation for a book that I still use. It's called the Ethical Marketing. I can't find it. Anyway, so it's a book on the ethical marketing and pricing guide for your work.
Mhm.
And it's incredible because it basically gives you a breakdown of of a price range for the low end and then the high end of any particular field you're in. So it'll say, if you're animating a 1 minute shoot, this is how much you can charge, or this is the industry standard. So it shows you an industry standard list of pricing guides. And that's what I use religiously, and it helps me a lot. So I don't have to do the guesswork of like, is this okay? Is that not okay? Because you don't want to undersell yourself, but you also don't want to drive your potential customers away. But regardless, if they want your work, they'll pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially you want to charge what you're worth. And that's what
Exactly.
I've learned, especially being in the beauty industry, but also in the art realm, is learn to charge what you're worth, because you're considering the time, the materials, and just how much work you put into a piece of artwork. That's like if I do like a set of press on nails, it's gonna take me a lot of time,
Yes,
so I think, charging for time and materials is very, very important.
it is. It is. And I think, people underestimate how much skill and time and effort it takes to make art. People see the end result,
Mhm,
but don't necessarily consider all of the years that it's taken to get to the level of proficiency that you're at. Um,
mhm,
so that's what I'm always trying to educate people on, educate clients on, is like, it costs this much because XYZ ABC. And once they understand the value, then they're good. And that's something I realized was helpful as a business owner generally, is explaining the value of your work, and making it clear why something costs what it does. Because if you can say, yes, this is expensive, but you're getting a quality product, you're getting a good name attached to it, and whatever other value you have to offer, then they'll be like, oh, okay, I can understand why, and they'll pay for it, as opposed to be like, yeah, it's worth that because it just is what it is. They'll be like, okay.
mhm. Yeah, yeah,
It's helpful to explain.
you got to give people specifics. You know,
Exactly.
you can't just price it anyway, because it's like, okay, here it is. It's like you got to give them the meat and potatoes of why.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, why is this costing what it costs?
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. Now, I want to get into like giving back. So, how important, especially with us as Black artists, how important is it to give back to our community?
Oh, it's incredibly important, and this is something that I've debated with myself for a while. Is like, what is the nature of giving back, right? Because it could be monetary, like that's always great. But I think what's more effective and long lasting is to introduce people to similar opportunities that you have, right? So I'm constantly working with kids. I'm constantly engaging with young Black children. And I think the way that I give back is by being a physical representation of what they can be as they age. You know, like I just had um, an opportunity to read my book at a school in New Jersey, and it was a majority Black and Latino Latinx school.
Mhm.
And the way that the kids reacted to me, like the teachers were like, "We've never seen the kids react this way to a visiting author." And they confessed to me, they were like, you know, most of the people, or all the people who typically come, are middle-aged and white, and they have a hard time connecting with the kids, is what I got. And here I come, 30 years old and Black and male and fun and exuberant, and they have something that they can connect to. So for me, one of the biggest ways that I give back is by reaching back to through children and encouraging them, inspiring them, teaching them, leading them, mentoring, all of that kind of stuff. And I love it. I love it. But giving back as a Black artist is crucial, because if
Right.
you're not reaching back to pull somebody up, then it feels like all of your work is in vain. Well, not in vain, but it feels like it's self-centered because you're not bringing somebody up with you as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't come from a genuine place if you're
Mhm.
about you. And the
Right.
thing is, I definitely believe as well where giving back is important because, because not only, am I an artist, but this is another way I give back is doing interviews because I
Yes.
definitely give people a chance to really speak their story and really speak about their art style and what they do. So I definitely believe that giving back to the community and giving back to different groups of people is very important.
Yes.
Allow people to share their story.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. Giving people a platform to use their voice is crucial. And like I said, I'm really grateful to you for giving me this opportunity and allowing me to share my own personal story. So it means a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Anything, that I could do, like, because I love shouting out Black artists. I love supporting my own people and supporting, different artists who are into the same things as me, like, illustration, nail art, or anything of that nature.
Yes.
So that's the thing. So that's what I enjoy doing is just putting people out there, who didn't get a chance to really speak their story or who didn't get a chance to really share what they do.
Right. Right. It's crucial.
Yeah, it's absolutely crucial. Now, what would you consider to be your favorite art mediums or like graphic programs to use when creating art?
Whew. Um, so I'm a huge proponent of Clip Studio Paint. It's formerly known as Manga Studio, but Clip Studio Paint. I actually had somebody from SCAD recommend it to me, Yuri. I was like, oh my God, what did you? Because she shared some of her work and the lines just looked so clean. I was like, oh my God, what are you using for that? Because Photoshop is not doing it for me like that. Um,
Right.
no shade, Photoshop, no shade. I still use Photoshop. It's still a fantastic program, but Clip Studio is great. It's tailored specifically to artists, illustrators, comic makers, animators, you name it. It's got it. So
Mm.
Clip Studio is one of my favorites, if not my favorite, completely. Procreate on the iPad is another really really good one. Um, I beyond just the digital. I'm always a traditional pencil and pen kid. Like that is my original jam. I can sit and sketch with pencil and pen till the cows come home and absolutely love the entire process. And watercolor. Watercolor is really kind of dreamy. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't like it because there's a lack of control that you have with it, but that's why I love it. It's like I can release and let go and
Mhm.
let the water do what it does, because that's the nature of water, right? It's the flow.
Yeah,
So water, Clip Studio Paint, um, Procreate, pencil, pen, and watercolor.
yeah. Mine is like pen and ink. Like I'm into Adobe Illustrator. I got into this other program, which is like a
Illustrator is
cheap.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Illustrator is really, really cool. Another program I got into, it's like a cheap alternative to Illustrator, but it's called a Fame Designer. So
Oh,
I've been working with that. So it's like a one-time pay thing. It's like $50. And yeah.
That's lovely. That is a lot cheaper than $50 a month.
Yeah. You're paying $200 some every year or something like that, but the thing is, I kind of stopped doing Illustrator for a while, because the whole thing with going to like art school, especially like SCAD, you have like the program for like another year and it just expires because you don't go to school no more.
Right. That's the messed up part about going to an elite art school like that. Like you get all these resources and then you graduate and it's like
Like,
it's crickets, as far as resources go. So yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
yeah. So I'm getting back into the swing. I'm trying to get back into the swing of using Illustrator again. But yeah, I like traditional pen and ink. I work with Posca markers, specifically like black and white Posca markers. I've gotten into that.
Ooh,
Um,
I'm weird. Like like the certain feels and certain textures of certain things rubbing together. I hate it. But like the feel of marker on paper makes my skin crawl, and I don't know what it is. I know it's so weird. But and it's crazy because I love the effect of markers, but the feeling of markers going, I'm like, oh.
That is hurt.
Yeah, yes, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me, and I hate that I'm like that. I'm like, oh, I want to use markers, but color pencil is also pretty good.
Yeah. Like with color pencil, I try to work with that, but it just is always been a struggle for me with color pencil. So I'm like a marker, gouache, digital person.
Yep,
Uh,
yep.
yeah,
I get it.
but I do understand like with the marker sometimes like it's just like nails on a chalkboard. Like that's like with chalk, like you know.
Ugh,
It's annoying.
it just makes my skin crawl. I'm always like, oh.
Yeah. That's the whole thing with that. It gets kind of awkward. Um, Now I want to ask, like, in pertaining to an art, like, where do you see like art going, and what is your whole take of the progression of art?
Oh, that's such a big topic. I think it's interesting because during the pandemic, there was almost like a renaissance in terms of, well, we're still in the pandemic, but at the height of the pandemic, I would say there was a recognition at the importance of art, right? Because all of a sudden we were left without the ability to entertain ourselves by going out and socializing, things like that. So we had to find more subdued ways of keeping ourselves attached to our humanity. And the arts sustained us. Like it was Netflix, it was coloring books, it was painting, picking up new hobbies. Like it was all of these things that were deeply creative.
And
And it's felt like there's been a slide backwards slightly, but I think that art as not only as a skill, but also as a business is going to grow, personally, because we're recognizing once again the power of art, not just to be entertaining and to be interesting, but the power of it to inform, to inspire, and to really change and affect people's hearts. And I think once once we kind of harness that power completely, um, it's just inevitable for arts and art funding to grow. And that's the next arena I feel like we're moving into, is arts funding growing as well, especially because, not to be grim, but something that we talked about in anthropology was the idea of global pandemics like this becoming a norm because of um, climate change, because of the crowding of people into small spaces, because of economic inequality. So I think
right.
we are going to witness the growth of the arts in general as a means of coping with the things that we're going to have to deal with because of our numerous issues. So yeah, I see it growing for sure, as
Yeah,
an industry and as a profession.
yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially with like social media. Like social media, I think really was booming during the
Yeah.
pandemic. It still is. You got
Right.
like
Right.
Instagram booming a bit more. TikTok is booming. We
Yes.
speak with a lot of different artists that's on TikTok, especially Black artists,
Yes.
illustrators and, designers and painters. And, it's getting this whole community, this community is getting bigger.
Right. 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 And especially with the proliferation of NFTs,
Mm.
I'm really curious to see how that expands the conversation on art, right? Because
Right.
now digital art is now NFTs I feel like are giving digital art the the level of respect that traditional hand painted art is being given, because now you have people with money who are willing to buy NFTs, digital pieces of art, and say that they own this. So I'm curious to see how that affects the market as well, and what that's going to do for digital artists. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting how like art is like going, because the thing is expanded so much, and it goes to show like there's different artists, not only who paint on a canvas or who do digital work, but it's also there's sculptors, there's nail artists. There's different avenues of art that's getting more recognition, and
Right.
I think that's a really cool, beautiful thing.
It is. It's really beautiful. So it's only up from here, from in my view.
Yeah, most definitely. I definitely agree with that. I want to get into like trademark. How important is trademarking, especially, and also with copyright?
Hmm. I think it's incredibly important. I actually just finished up a business course, and one of my teachers, mentors, he trademarked a phrase of his, and he was very adamant, especially for Black business owners and for Black creatives. Owning something is crucial, and you can see that conversation happening with like the Black dancers and teens who made viral dances on TikTok.
Right,
But then you had a white girl do the exact same dance, and she was being flown out and being paid millions to do what Black creators were doing.
right.
And we weren't receiving the benefits of all of our hard creative capital. So I think trademarking and branding is crucial, because what's her name? Anybody got time for it? Like I forget her name. Sweet
Sweet
Brown.
Brown.
Sweet
Yeah,
Brown, yes. Sweet Brown, she trademarked that, and she was able to get paid, like a buku paid off of that, and she was doing commercials, all that stuff. So I think she's an example of what can happen when we own our when we own our creative capital. I think that's huge. So trademarking and branding, yeah, that's major.
yeah. Especially when stuff go viral. You know,
Yes.
like if you have like anybody got time for that, or hide your kids, hide your wife.
Right,
Like,
right,
you got to show
right,
that.
right. Trademark that and get paid off of it, And
Right.
I think I think there's something beautiful about being able to use your creative talents and use your creativity to fund your life. And I don't see anything wrong with trademarking that, trademarking these brilliant ideas, and staking a claim on that, because there's been a history of Black and POC creators making beautiful stuff, but us not getting the credit for it. And more
Yeah.
than the credit, not getting the money that needed to come with that notoriety. So, I think it's really important for sure, for everybody, not just Black, but like everybody.
Yeah, because there's a likelihood where people could try to steal your work and put on a shirt. Like I've seen that with different illustrators where they'll put out a piece of artwork, and then somebody will take it and put on a shirt, put on like a sweater or whatever.
Yes, yes, it's crazy. Like it's very common for people to do, um, particularly like switching a few colors and saying like, well, it's not yours now, or switching up the clothing slightly. So it gets messy, and it gets hard to track down who owns what. But I'm very much, anything that I intend to make money off of, I'm like, yeah, I'm trademarking that. And even if I don't, I'll put my name on it on my Instagram pieces in places where it'll be difficult to remove it without messing up the artwork.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, how important is Black representation in art, especially, supporting Black owned businesses?
Yeah, it's crucial. I see it every day with my own work. I'll get messages from parents, and one of the stories that touched me the most was a friend of mine bought my book for her friend and her friend's son. So her friend's son is biracial, he's half Black, half white. And they bought Carefree Like Me. And as they were reading, he kind of like was very excited. And he said to his mom, "Mommy, look, it's me. He looks like me." And that's when I was like, tears, just tears. Like it was huge. Like it was really powerful
Right.
to know that my work made a child feel seen and to make a child feel loved for who they are. So representation is vital. And I think about the ways in which I didn't have those images growing up. And particularly like as a Black LGBT person, you know, feeling like I straddled worlds. Like I felt like it was cool being Black as long as I wasn't gay. And then if I went outside of the Black community, then I got shunned for my Blackness. So it was really, really weird. And not really having a space where I could say like, where I could see myself represented in my fullness and not just the snippets and pieces. So representation is vital. Um, and then I'm sorry, I'm forgetting your second question. What was it? Representation, and then
It was in terms of like supporting Black owned businesses.
yes. So supporting Black owned businesses is incredibly crucial too. I think I don't think that the economics are the only thing that are important to our freedom and to our kind of movement forward. But I do think that being able to have an economics stronghold, an economic um, kind of footing is
Right.
crucial, because if we don't support Black businesses, then that money doesn't circulate within our communities and bolster us. And unfortunately, there's been a history of Black economics being interrupted by violence. So
Right.
I think that it's crucial that we cultivate a sense of community financially and economically, for us to move forward, and then we can incorporate other aspects of what's needed as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think economic protection is very, very important.
Mhm.
Once we have, our own structure, where we can support each other, it has a likelihood of like of it getting sabotaged.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, like there's a history of that. Black Wall
Right.
Street, and yeah, but Black Wall Street was burned to the ground. Like it's crazy. So, and then beyond that, we didn't have the means prior to that to do that because we were enslaved, and then after that, our livelihoods were attacked, and then
Right.
on top of that, we were barred and restricted from certain resources like redlining. Like we were literally structurally limited from certain services, so that we couldn't really make as much money as we wanted to. So we're kind of playing a 400-year catch-up game, which is insane to even think about. But yeah, no, I think that supporting Black businesses is incredibly crucial, and to
Hmm.
keep that money circulating within our communities, to bolster our needs as well.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, last but not least, how would you define success?
Oh, oh, you hit me with the hard hitting questions, guys. This is too deep. um, success for me is knowing that I've made an impact in somebody's life.
Mm,
And success for me is knowing that I wake up every day on purpose. So
right.
knowing that my words have reached somebody and let them know that they're loved, let them know that they are supported and that they're seen and that they're valued. That is crucial to me, and that is the idea of success for me. Um, but yeah, I would say it's primarily that. It's primarily that is letting other people feel seen and making others know through my work that they matter is the biggest thing. And waking up on purpose, meaning that I am waking up every day knowing that I'm on my own personal mission and knowing that I'm on my own personal path that brings me joy that I've chosen and have structured. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm living life my own terms and making other people feel valuable.
Yeah. That's the same with me, like, making others feel valuable. And I think
Yes.
also to maintain that success, because I know people talk about like the hustle, hustle culture and things like that. And I think what people don't really realize and take into consideration enough, and I think they should a bit more, is just in order to maintain a work ethic or to maintain that passion for what you do, you got to take care of
Mhm.
yourself. Self-care is
Yes.
important.
Yes. Self-care in terms of honoring rest is huge.
Mhm.
And I think because we live in a capitalist society, it's always about produce, 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 produce. What can you produce? How fast can you produce it? But human beings are not machines. Like we need rest. We require rest, and we
Mhm.
can only create when we have moments of nothingness. I think the nothingness is what allows for somethingness.
Right. And especially having the energy,
Yes.
for it too. I think that's very important. And it's not just only rest. I think it's also like, your diet, make sure that you're hydrated and things like that. That's what helps maintain that passion and maintains that work ethic as well.
Yep. And I definitely just had Chipotle and 3 cookies, so I will get on that.
Yeah, I had like spaghetti. So like, hey,
Ooh.
but yeah, but that is definitely important. As long as you take care of yourself, you can maintain it. And especially also to, we live in a realm, live in a time of social media.
Hmm.
You don't want to look too much into social media and compare yourself to other people. I think that's another thing
Yes.
too.
Yes. Yeah. That one is really hard, and I'm just so glad that I was born in the '90s and was born in '91 and had the chance to live prior to social media. Like I lived in a world where it was easier to be present then,
Mhm.
because you didn't have your phone going boop, 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 bing, bing,
Yeah,
bing.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it wasn't that constant attachment. Like you could pull away from the things that would distract you. So yeah, social media can is it has its boons, but it can definitely be a tool of destruction too, unfortunately.
Yeah. That's the thing with that. Now, where can people find you on social media and how can people support your work?
Thank you. So they can find me on social media at Ramalik Illustrations. So Ramalik is Ramalik, and then illustrations. So Ramalik underscore illustrations. That's my Instagram. On Twitter, I'm under Rashad M. Davis. So RASHAD M and then DAVIS. That's my Twitter. And then the best way to support me is to visit my website, right? So I have my books available for sale there. I have all my merchandise. I have t-shirts, stickers, buttons, anything that you could possibly need. You can check it out there. And that is RamalikIllustrations.com, RAMALIK illustrations.com. And you can check everything out there.
All right. Well, thank you, Rashad, so much for jumping onto the show. Like, I love what you're doing. You're inspiring young generations and, you're reaching for the stars. And, I'm so proud of you and the success of Carefree Like Me. It's really, really amazing to see. And I want to thank you too also for like interviewing me down way back when, like around like 2020, 2021, somewhere around there. But
Of
yeah,
course.
but it was really, really cool that you used your platform to, shout me out. So I definitely want to return the favor to honor you. So just thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I love the questions. You're a great interviewer. And I support you all the time. always at all times as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, take care.
Thanks so much. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the bell for notifications. Also, follow me on my social media platforms and visit my website, asiaticbird.com, and be on the lookout for more interviews to come very soon. Take care and stay beautiful.